I will do it by myself.
And welcome to the Global Journalism Seminars. I'm Caitlin Mercer, Associate Director of the Fellowship Program at the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism. It's been 272 days since Putin escalated the Russo-Ukrainian war with a full-scale land invasion of Ukraine. According to the United Nations, at least 6,490 Ukrainian civilians have been killed, and over 9,000 have been wounded since the invasion began. 7.4 million Ukrainians have become refugees, and at least 12 journalists have been killed. Joining us today, Sevgil Musaieva, editor-in-chief of digital outlet Ukrainska Pravda, which reaches over 4 million people with daily news in Ukrainian, English, and Russian. In the past year, Sevgil has been awarded the Press Freedom Award and was nominated as one of Time 100's most influential people. I am so proud to welcome Sevgil today. Thank you for your time, Sev.
Hello, hello all. Nice to meet you. Greetings from Kiev. Another one missile attack is happening right now. Unfortunately, Russia hit Ukrainian critical infrastructure and residential buildings, but we are here, and I hope that next hour we'll have a good time, and we will learn like interesting stories from Ukrainian side.
And it's important to say that we know, and the entire audience understands, if the sirens go off, if you need to leave, no explanation needed. Your safety is number one for us.
No, it's actually air raid siren right now, but yeah, it's okay.
You've got a new generator.
Yes, we switch on our generator, and that's why it's possible to connect today. So we unfortunately already like blackout in Kiev, in the big cities in Ukraine. I mean Lviv first, and even the part of Moldova is out of electricity. But thanks to our generator, we're able to do that. It's kind of a miracle, but yeah.
Sev, I know that you have a presentation that you want to give to us.
Yes.
I'm not going to take up any more time asking questions, but we will have time for questions afterwards. And we invite the audience to put their questions into the Q&A box, and we will come back for questions in a second. So over to you, Sev.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Actually, I didn't tell you that we were fellows of Reuters Institute together with Caitlin, and for me it's a big honor to speak to your current fellows and to your audience. And I think that can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can see it. So the first one slide, it will be about.
It's not quite in presentation mode yet.
Okay, just a moment.
There you go.
Okay. Ukrainska Pravda. So I'm chief editor. I became a chief editor of Ukrainska Pravda in 2014, 5 months after beginning of the war in Ukraine. I mean, the invasion of Crimea, the annexation of Crimea, and then the start of occupation in Donbass. But Ukrainska Pravda has a special story, the oldest online media outlet in Ukraine. It was founded in 2000 by 2 journalists, Georgi Gangadze and Elena Pritula. And for the first days, it was just a online page, how they called it. I remember how Elena told me the story that the audience of Ukrainska Pravda was around 15 to 20 people every day. And it's hard to imagine now, like that in 2000, it was just 15, 20 people reading Ukrainska Pravda every day. But then the story, unfortunately, is so tragic because in 6 months after the foundation of Ukrainska Pravda, its co-founder Georgi Gangadze was killed. It's led to accusations of the government and protests that took place in 2020. And also, I think that the investigation of Gangadze case was among like most important stories in 2004 during the Orange Revolution. So what is Ukrainska Pravda before? To 24th red line, actually, I'd like to say. So we have a big audience, around 1 million readers per day, and 26 million visits in 1 month, 8 departments. But we started with 5 people, and I think that the story of Ukrainska Pravda is also about how independent journalism, the story of success of independent journalism in Ukraine, because you know that you didn't know maybe, but around 85% of our media landscape controlled by oligarchs before the war. And there are a few examples of independent journalism, and Ukrainska Pravda is the oldest one. And we grew to 8 departments in different spheres. I mean, economic sphere, Euro integration, for example, it's another one project. So it was also, it is also OP Life and tabloid, and like the infrastructure of Ukrainska Pravda is big, and around 60 employees work in Ukrainska Pravda, and now it's even more, around 65, I think, because we hired like some people after the beginning of war, so it was like our situation before. Our financial model was also more about advertising. Like we received our revenue from advertising mostly, around 80%, and then the 10% from donors and 10% from readership. And actually, I launched, I think I want to mention that we launched readership in 2020. And actually, it was a part of my fellowship at Reuters Institute, because for us, like my paper was about how to rebuild trust in the media, and together with my tutor, former editor of The Guardian, Alan Rasberger, we founded this new model. Among this model was also the Club of Readers, and we launched this Club of Readers in 2020, just 1 month before, or like even not 2 months after the beginning of pandemic. And so we received, before the war, we received around 20% of our revenue from our readers, which was also important for us, because we were one of the first of media in Ukraine who launched this model. So I want to compare myself with this epic movie, Don't Look Up, because before the war, nobody believed that it will happen. Like, of course, there were a lot of rumors. Western media covered the stories from the beginning of October. There were rumors that maybe Putin will attack Ukraine, but nobody believed that, because in 8 years we had a lot of rumors about that. Among even Ukrainians, a lot of people didn't want to believe that it can happen. For me personally, what can I say? That okay, it's informing me that it's red siren is ended. Sorry, interrupting you. So we now can work in new, like in not dangerous circumstances, and I'm not in the shelter, but I want to let you know that it's already like safe time for us. And
it's telling you you're safe, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
It's ended, like thanks God. Yeah. But unfortunately, we already informed about 1 killed during this missile attack. I think that yeah, we'll tell you later the result of this attack. Sorry. So I was literally like this girl from Don't Look Up, because I was a little bit scared about possible invasion, and I was thinking about maybe we have to launch our own plan, how we will deal. And of course, even in my darkest thought about this war, I never can imagine such brutality that Russia did, and Russia still does in Ukraine. I never can imagine that it will be like missile attacks. But the same time, I understood after Kazakhstan, actually in January, you remember this like protest that took place, and blackouts, and people were without internet, and they blocked all like channel of information. I think that will be the target, and I had to protect. We have to have this plan to protect our people. And then we asked our employees, do you want to stay, do you want to leave in the end of January? And then after this one publication, I mean Spiegel publication, that invasion will happen 16th of February, we decided to relocate the part of our team to Western regions. It was like a lot of people didn't understand this decision. A lot of people were thinking that maybe it's like we became victims of this conspiracy theory, but the story was that I want to share you that I came to my newsroom in 15th of February and told them, okay, like, I don't know how, but three people from our team should leave this evening, have to leave this evening by train to western part of Ukraine. And the story that those two, for example, editors who left first day, they were from Bucha, and in 2 weeks after that, so they evacuated together with the kid, and then in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sorry, in 2 weeks after the start of the war, and 3 weeks after they were evacuated, the father of our editor was killed in Bucha by Russian soldiers. He was 70 years unarmed man. We also produced this security protocol for people of Ukrainska Pravda, and literally published it in our group 3 days before the war, and it was like security protocol, what to do, and how you can evacuate people, how you can evacuate what you should have in your backpack. And but of course, in 24th of February, on 21st of February, we already had 7 people evacuated to different part of to one part of Ukraine. And then on 24th of February, we understood that it will be difficult us to continue our work from Kiev because Kiev was under attack. And we decided to move like a part of the team also to another 2 cities, and even to Gdańsk in Poland. So around 17 people left Kiev, but the rest stay. There are my pictures from 21st of February. This is the first one in my pajama around 8 a.m. First air raid siren this day. You see that there are 3 cups of coffee, a glass of water with lemon and chocolate, and like website. I'm not panic. And another one picture in 12 hours the same day from the shelter together with my dog, and you can understand that I was a little bit scared, and because of these missile attacks and because of news I received from ambassadors that probably Zelensky will be killed in the next couple of hours, and you have only 3 days, and if you have to leave Kiev in like few hours, because if they will capture Kiev and Kiev will be occupied, it will be your personal issue. So this was the beginning of the story. The same part, Ukrainska Pravda, this day, I want to mention here that Ukrainska Pravda played an important role during 2 revolutions, in Orange Revolution and the Revolution of Dignity, and it became like the most important source of like during critical situation. And of course, this was literally critical situation. I remember how I woke up actually literally 30 minutes before the start of the war. I don't know what is it, was it intuition or just because I have this like nightmares, and I usually wake up like 3 times per night just to see some to scroll some news. And this day I remember how I woke up and had my glass of water, and then received this push that Putin gave his announcement to the nation. And this time I understood everything. So the first story was about Putin announced the war in Ukraine, and it was 4 a.m. And then I started to receive like calls from different people like from different countries and other authorities as well. So the head of National Security Bureau called me and said that we will announce now martial law, etc., etc. So, and then the first air siren, so it was like that. But first day of the war, we received our site visited by 7 million people. I never can imagine such numbers of people, and we were the second largest website this day in Ukraine after Google. This the result of March 2022. You see that 783 million page views and total visit 39 visitors, and like people spend around 6 minutes, which is enormous. So people were living they stay with our news all the time. This is a result of 2022 March as well. So seven place among the biggest websites in the country. So people liked us more than Instagram, for example, just during the wartime. And also in the beginning of war, we launched we canceled all our advertising and provided assistance for our army. And we posted a lot of advertising for just support Ukrainian army. And you see like that total clicks around 678,000 clicks. And I know that a lot of volunteers received money from the readers of Ukrainska Pravda, because we were the most popular website during this time. So this is a result among countries, so you can understand our structure. So Ukraine is the first place, the second place is United States, Poland, Russia in the first place. And I think that we can proud of this because a lot of people from Russia still read us and still use our information and still trust us, which is important. I also see that from our social media, from Facebook, from Instagram, from YouTube. So a lot of people watch us and follow us from Russia, still even with blocked, so they can use VPN. In YouTube, I see it like without using VPN, but they still with us and trust us. So in the beginning of war, we also launched English version because it was extremely important to receive people information from the first hand in English. And this English version was launched by my colleague Alina Polikova and with volunteers. So people from different countries just helped us for the first days of war, and it was just an amazing. But then, of course, we received like some donation, and third months of the war, we started to pay them. But first month they were literally volunteers, and it was just a great example of solidarity with people of Ukraine. And the total number of English version you also can see, like 1.5 million views for the first months and 13 million views of our pages, so which is also amazing results. So I know that it was one of the most powerful English version of Ukrainian media, started from scratch, which is something I never can imagine. As I mentioned before, this was our model before 21st of February 2022. So we received 80% from advertising, 10% from readers revenue, 10% from donors, and then it changed dramatically to the beginning of war. Now we receive around 60% from donors, 30% from advertising, and then still readers revenue. We changed our financial model, and thanks to donors, we're still able to continue to do our work and to pay salaries and to follow other projects. For us, it's important. And in the beginning of war, also our friends from Genomics launched a campaign in GoFundMe to help independent media, and we received around with relocation actually. From the beginning, it was a relocation, and we're happy just to receive around 400,000 pounds, and then in the end it was around £1.1 million, and we divided this amount with different independent media, because of course all of them faced with incredible challenges. Here I want to go to another part of my presentation, how this terrible war affected our newsroom, because we are citizens of Ukraine first, and our country became literally a war zone. And here are some stories. The first one I want to share about our designer of Ukrainska Pravda. We lost connection with him for 14 days. And for 10 days, we didn't know if he's alive, and he didn't respond emails, he didn't respond phone calls. We knew that he was under occupation in Warsaw, which is a city close to Kiev, like 15 kilometers from Kiev, around 15 kilometers from Kiev. And then after 14 days, he gave me a call, and he just with short message, "I'm alive. I'll be able to do my work to continue my work tomorrow morning." And this message made me cry for the first time in 2 weeks of this terrible war. And then he covered the story in this publication. So how was it to be in under occupation in Kiev region for 14 days? He said that they didn't have electricity, they didn't have water, they had only like potatoes, and it was very, very difficult. And it was even a miracle he survived, he escaped occupation, and just wonderful story. This one, another story I mentioned before, our colleague father was killed in Bucha in the beginning of March, when Bucha was under Russian occupation, and Russian soldiers came to his place and just killed him. And for 7 days, his wife even wasn't able to bury him. So, and then they buried him, and after Bucha was liberated in 1 month, it was very difficult even to find his body, because all this investigation started, and we understood that his body only thanks to blanket he was buried on. This is my part of my story. My friend, my colleague Brenton was killed in Irpin in the 13th of March. He came here to film a documentary about Ukrainian refugees. And he went to Irpin together with my partner, who was a driver. And he was killed by sniper. And another, my colleague, Juan Redondo, who was also my fellow, my classmate at Harvard, he was wounded during this attack. And it happened in 13th of March. And literally after this day, I saw that maybe like this war already gave me so much grief that I don't know what else. And this is a story of our managing editor of English version of Ukrainska Pravda, Alina Polikova. She lost her father, so her father has died, and the Russians have killed her father. Her father was a soldier in Zaporizhia region, and he died in the beginning of June. Another one story about how protect their homeland. And this is our videographer, journalist, Ridar Sarahman. In the end of July, he decided to join the army. So he did. wonderful, like he's amazing reporter. Amazing story he did like for the last couple of years, and then he wrote to the readers of Ukrainska Pravda that I'm going to army not on the line of duty or guilty. It's about our dignity. We are standing for that for years and centuries, and I have no other country, and I have never have any. And he decided to join the army, and for me it's painful. Yeah, and this is a story I want to tell you that this scarf is provided by our colleagues. So we volunteered a little bit, and we bought this car, and readers donated to this car, and Dar is using this car that our guys bought him. Sorry. The short part of my presentation will be about our actually journalist work, not about numbers, not about volunteer project, not about how this war affected us. So this one story, 1st March of 2022, so 7 days, 7 or 8 of the war, we published the list of Russian yachts and jets. And then in a couple of hours, I received a call from one of ambassador of European country, and he just asked me, could you please give me a translation of this article? And I said, of course I can. And then in 2 hours, we sent this translation. And next 3 days, around 8 yachts from this list were arrested by European governments in those countries. And I think that it was like a great result how journalists can help the country and sanctions during the war. So this is a happy story. Another one, it's about Kadyrov's villa. Ramzan Kadyrov, who is one of the main characters of this war and one of the main allies of Putin, and propagandist as well. We found his villa in Dubai, and one of our readers helped to film it. So, and the story that we found this villa thanks to Instagram of one of bodyguards of Kadyrov, and then in 2 days, this bodyguard deleted all photos from his Instagram, and unfortunately the man who helped us was deported from the country by Arab Emirates government because he took some photos of this villa, and they respect private property. Okay, this one, it doesn't work, but I will provide you a link. This one is our film, Occupant. We captured video it's film captured from video of Russian soldier who was captured by Ukrainian one, and it became extremely popular not only in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we received around 4 million views, but this film is available like in different countries now, and even we received a lot of invitations from documentary film festivals, and the author of this film, Misha Tkach, gave a lot of interviews about this movie, and I'll be happy to provide like a short version, but unfortunately for some reason it doesn't work. Sorry about that. I will give you a link later. Just we'll be happy just to know. Of course, we cover war in the fields, and here are our reporters, Olya Kirilenko. She is just 23 years old, and our greatest photographer, I think one of the best photographers in Ukraine, Dmitro Ladin. They cover war from different cities, battlefield, stories with evacuation with civilians. One of the stories, latest stories, was about zoo, private zoo, that was destroyed during the occupation with all killed animals. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that it has an English version, but it is heartbreaking. You see, like Ukrainian army and dogs and our reporter Oля, and she decided by herself that she wants to be a war reporter, and this is also a great example of courage, and I'm really, really proud of him. And this is also another one, heartbreaking stories, that during the war, you're not only journalist, you're not only report, you're not only cover, but also you have to help your people. So the story that our journalist went to this village near the border, near the front line, and then this man, old man, told them, could you please find my wife, because I don't have, he doesn't have a connection in this village. Could you please find my wife? She was evacuated after she was wounded, and maybe she is in hospital in Lysychansk. Our reporters gave her a call when they went to Ukrainian territory. And then in 1 month, they received another one call from this woman, and she asked, could you please drive me back? I want to be with my family. And it was very heartbreaking story how this family was again united thanks to our reporters. Sorry. And this is not only this story, so we had to, when we go to these territories, we also try to have some like humanitarian aid, bring some humanitarian aid, warm clothes, everything, just to help people, help civilians, help army during those times. This one is also interesting. Before the war, Ukrainska Pravda covered domestic issues and corruption. And then because of curfew, because of martial law, it became really difficult to film Ukrainian corrupted guys in Kiev streets. So we decided to film them in different European countries. And this one is like funny story about battalion Monaco. So oligarchs and corrupted Ukrainians officials, maybe former and current former officials, members of parliament, who left the country after the beginning of war and now spend their time in Monaco and other like fancy places. And this was nice answer. So we not cover only war, we cover also corruption and misconducts of officials. And one of the latest story was about corruption scheme of one of the head of Dnipro region governor. So, and this one is a reconstruction. One of my favorite mine is about like 3 days in the beginning of war. Our reporters did a great job. They interviewed more than 30 people just to write this piece about how Ukraine wasn't ready for this war and how officials reflected after 9 months, after not 7 months of this war. And we received like thousands of positive comments from our audience, and for them it was very important to know how they made decisions, how our officials made decisions, how was it like a security protocol or not, and it was interesting and important work for us to do. And here I'd like to stop maybe. Glory to Ukraine and Slava Ukraini. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll happy to receive all your questions. Thank you
so much, Sev. I think you've done a brilliant job there of, let's just stop sharing that presentation. And I think you've done a brilliant job of explaining how the business model had to evolve, how your team had to evolve, how and the stories that you're proudest of. It was really good to just listen to you about your experiences. I wanted to just repeat to the audience that you can put your questions for Sev into the Q&A box. And we will go down to our room as well for questions soon. But quickly before we do, can I ask you something that was particularly struck me there? Sorry. How do you tell your team how to rest and how to grieve?
Oh, it's impossible. Like
Yeah.
it is so hard. I think we even don't have a discussion about that. We just do our job, and that's it. So we don't have a time just for self-reflection now, for understanding how this war is affected. Of course, literally every single person of our newsroom is affected by this war, and it's just like a few stories. But the part of people have relatives in occupied territories, for example, and it's also affected them. Of course, they don't have a connections. They afraid to use their real names just because maybe those people, their relatives, can be in danger. So.
And I promised you I wasn't going to try to make you cry, and I'm not trying to make you cry, but you have to be carrying a huge amount of personal responsibility for this team of 60 people, and carrying a huge amount of guilt around almost every decision you make. Do you talk to your team about that?
I was so happy that this security protocol worked, and that we relocated the part of team before the war, and it literally helped save lives. It helped. So, and I was so happy about that.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, other newsrooms, they didn't have this option. And it was just before more about kind of intuition and the feel of that maybe something can happen, and that's why we need to have this plan B. But yeah,
I put it to you that in 2018, when you and I met, you were saying, as a Crimean Tatar, you were saying, it doesn't stop with Crimea. It doesn't stop with Crimea. I'm telling you, keep watching. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Like 6 years ago, you were saying, I'm telling you, keep watching, keep watching.
Yes. And and during my year at Harvard, I also received those comments from my colleagues at Harvard. So you told us, that it's gonna happen. I think that this war started in 2014, and started from Crimea, and it should end in Crimea too. It's my opinion, it's my feeling, because without it, nobody can feel safe, because Crimea is literally military base of Putin now, and he uses these tactics of everywhere. He used Crimea during his Syrian campaign. He used Crimea during Ukraine.
Predictable.
Those missiles came from Crimean cities.
Yeah.
Because Crimea is not like a safe place. It's not like a place for vacations anymore. This is a military base. And before, without its liberation, it's just okay. We can, last days I received like thousands of questions. What can be like a decision, and maybe like you have to stop this war, just not like to take a break. Okay, but like in a few years, it will happen.
If my fellows downstairs can get their camera going and get ready, I'm going to come to you in a second. But first, a question here for you from Ted Sullivan are you worried about infiltration by Russian agents or collaborators who might try to influence your coverage?
We're already 8 years in this war, and we experienced so many, how to say, informational attacks. And so thanks that we're already 8 years in this war, we are ready for all these Russian fakes and attacks. So, of course, like the first days of war, they were trying to destroy our website, and one of the biggest attack was around 300,000 requests per second, which was like. And then I heard from my IT team that they never think something like that. They never saw something like that. But still, like.
You keep going.
And yeah, we keep going, and of course they are trying. They want to influence our information field, but it doesn't work anymore. And the people in Ukraine understand all these tactics, and they are really clever. Like the part of people, like they're really aware of media literacy, and just because it's already 8 years. In the beginning of occupation of Crimea, of course, we were not ready. We were not ready, we were literally. And I think that Ukrainian experience and Ukrainian way of response for such challenges is so useful and important for you guys. Because Russia, of course, the Russians they will try to disrupt things in different ways in different countries, and they use these hybrid tactics everywhere. And this is a part of the military doctrine, so this is a part of the military strategy. They started from cyber attacks, and then they started with, and they continue with the army. It's happening all the time.
Let's go to Zsofia from Hungary, who has a question about citizen journalism for you. And let's see if we can. That's Vanessa. And there's Zsofia.
Yes, thank you so much for talking to us and for all the amazing work you do. I have a question regarding your relationship with your audience. So how did it change during, like since the full-scale invasion? Because you mentioned, for example, that there were some readers who had you film something or ask some help from you. So how did it change, and how like you receive a lot of material from them, and how do you decide what to use, what not to use?
Thank you for this question. Yes, I remember how the first days of war, I just asked like one simple question for my audience in Facebook and for readers of Ukrainska Pravda. How are you? Could you tell us about situation in your cities? And it helped us to understand the whole situation, because like a lot of people, a lot of cities were under attack. And for example, of course, the main focus was on Kiev, for example, or like big cities, and we missed important events in southern part of Ukraine. And I received like thousands photos, videos, and comments from our readers in Kherson, in Berdyansk, for example, in Mariupol. Like, but Mariupol was out of electricity and internet from the beginning, like from the first days of war, and it was hard. So of course we double checked it, we verified this information we received from our readers, but it helped us to report the full picture of this war. And you know that I'm still in touch with a lot of people in occupied territories, our readers, for example, and they provide us important information about attacks, about what occupants do in these territories, what like about even tortures, even like about killings of civilians. Of course, they're afraid to do that. So I ask them to be very careful with this, and I ask them not to use like to clean everything after they send me a picture, but then they still provide us information and they still help us. And for us, it's important. And if you're asking me about our readers readers revenue model, still like 900 people support us, even when a lot of people donate to army. So to the army, they want to support us as well. And they ask us a lot of questions. And of course, thanks to our readers, we also can fundraise some money for army, for civilians, for example, with like even tablets for refugees, Ukrainian refugees, for people, for eternally displaced people.
There's two questions in the Q&A box here that relate to that answer. The first is from Anonymous, who says, what's the situation now for Crimean Tatars with the Russians trying to mobilize? Do you have any insight on that?
You know, I'm Crimean and I'm from Crimea, and I still have a lot of relatives. I can tell you that part of my relatives left Crimea after the start of mobilization, and they now live in Kazakhstan, for example. So we have a group with support, and we also provide some help for people that left Crimea. Without with a lot of problems, without documents, without their families, but they don't want to take part in this war against Ukraine, against their people. And it's also the big tragedy of my nation, because we were deported from those territories, I mean, from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and now we escape to these territories again and again and again. And it's why, because Russia does it, and Russia is responsible for that. So, and it's for centuries, it's happening for centuries, like it's happening literally for centuries. Ukrainians suffering, Crimean Tatars are suffering just because Russians don't want us to exist. So,
there is a second part to Anonymous's question, but I want to approach it carefully. So I'm going to caveat it a little bit, the language, by saying, for you personally as an individual, not as the editor of Ukrainska Pravda, but as Sev, with being in the middle of this war, with seeing what's happened to the Tatars, how do you feel about ordinary Russian citizens? And do you feel that they're complicit in this war? How do you relate, for example, to our mutual Russian friends? How do you, what's the human?
Yeah, hard one. Like, of course, I have friends in Russia, and of course, they texted me in the beginning of war with a lot of support, and of course, I understand the part of people, they feel guilty about what's happening. But sometimes you just can do nothing with your fear and with your emotions. And for me, this like red line was after Bucha and Borodyanka, and all the cities where I saw like thousands of casualties and killed Ukrainian civilians. And I was like tiger. I literally, like few days after I saw those photos, it like I even didn't cry. So it just I felt only fury, and I was thinking about maybe I was a good in shooting during my school, so maybe I would love to join army. And then I asked my good friend of mine, Patrick Dubois, who is a bishop just could you please explain me my feelings?
Mm.
And he tried. He explained me that it's okay for human being when people killed your countrymen feel such pain and feel for me it's difficult. Yes, I'm even when I met with my friends from Russia. Yes, for me it's painful and heartbreaking.
Let's leave it there. Question from Patty Coulter is, with the change in revenue coming from readers, donors, do you worry about it affecting editorial independence at all?
No, Ukrainska Pravda exists already 22 years, and we have our principles, rules, and we follow them from the beginning of our existence. And we founded by actually also just with support with donors and from different countries. And then we built our financial model and it was pretty successful. I hope that it will not happen. Of course, for us, this is important support. But I will do everything possible to protect our independence as much as I can.
A question for you from Evie, who is from China and living in the US. And she has a question about.
Hi, thank you so much for talking with us today. My question is, how do you perceive foreign journalists' work in Ukraine during the war? And do you have any advice for any reporters that are not from Ukraine, like what to do and what not to do when you're trying to cover it?
Was it about my advices for foreign reporters?
Yeah, how are foreign correspondents faring in covering this war? And any advice for those coming in?
I think that there are a lot of focus on our president, for example, Zelensky, who became the main hero of this war. And I want to see more stories about heroes among people, among Ukrainian soldiers, among Ukrainian army, not only among Ukrainian authorities and our main figure president, because its struggle is not only about him. This is a struggle of Ukrainian people and courage of Ukrainian people. And I think that without this, everything will be not possible. This war is about Ukrainian identity, and people fight for Ukrainian identity. And of course, leadership of Zelensky is very important, but still Ukrainians do brilliant. And every single Ukrainian became a volunteer, became a soldier, became a part of army, became a part of this resistance. And I want to hear and see more stories about Ukrainian resistance, as not in general, but in faces. And believe me, there are thousands of human stories, and you will be so touched by them when people change dramatically their lives. And literally, our army consists not only from journalists, artists, musicians, and that's why we are talking about genocide now, yeah, because this is a battle for existence of country and people from absolutely different spheres. So we lose our best people. I mean, people who will build, who needs to build this country in future, who need to build this country in future.
Yeah,
the core element of this. Sorry, I'm emotional about that, but when I saw another one story, for example, 2 days ago, one of the founder of very important project in Kiev died. Actually, he was killed. He went to army and he was killed by Russian soldiers, and he helped to save all these Kiev ancient places, historical buildings. And I understood when I read this story that nobody will follow him, and it will be okay. Sorry.
Irreplaceable. Yeah, every single person lost. the skill sets. Sev, let's end with a little bit, something a little bit left field. Indulge me in a fantasy. Let's say Putin gets on a bus this afternoon with all of his cronies, all of his supporters, and the bus drives off a cliff by mistake. Oops. And the new Russian administration says this war is stupid, we're leaving, we're pulling out this weekend, and the war will be over on Monday. What would you do on Monday?
I have a dream to go to Crimea and to hug my relatives I didn't see for the last 8 years. This is the only one, my dream. And then follow my team. I mean, do my regular job with providing news and information for people in Ukraine. And this is what can I help and how I can help people. But first, yeah, it is my dream just to go to Crimea and hug my family.
I've seen your pictures. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to think about what you do with your team after the war, how it changes, or
I think we all need to have a short vacation after the victory.
I think your readers would 100% understand 2-week holiday.
I'm not kidding when I'm talking about it was 24/7. It's literally 24/7, and it's already 9 months 24/7. And I don't know how people find Pravda, like all sources, like eternal sources to provide news. And when you're also affected by this war in different ways, I mean, when you lose your parents, lose your friends, lose your partners,
colleagues, and yeah, no, you're not lying. You were messaging me in those first few days, and we were all going, Sev, please, Sev, you have to sleep. Sev, this is going to be a long war. You need to sleep, please, please.
Yeah, I didn't sleep for the first maybe 5 days, like maybe 1 hour or something like that. Now I sleep like around 6, maybe. Like last 2 weeks, it was just around 4 or 5, maybe. After I came to Kiev, it will be maybe 6, 7, I hope, sometimes. Yeah, but it's not about like you still wake up a lot of times during the night.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier. I want to ask, we were joking before this seminar began about all the awards you've won, how you're going to need a trophy room when this war is over for all of the awards. Would you mind showing them your latest trophy for the trophy room?
What do you mean? Oh, this one? This one, yes. It's a meat I received from my friend, actually our former journalist who joined Territorial Defense Unit. And he brought me this trophy from Kherson Oblast, and where he's from, literally. So he was defending, and then so and yes, and he brought me this meat from already liberated territories from.
I think that will go very nicely next to the Time 100 most influential. So much for your time, for your work, for your dedication.
Thank you so much.
And anything you need, we're here.
And I was happy to share this hour with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Safe.